A lot of foundries are now realizing that they don't have an option but to adopt this technology. We believe, and we are already seeing now, that 3D printing will be used for mass production in foundries.
Are you allowed to say how much it costs?
The machines?
Yeah.
Like for example, one of our first customers in
Okay.
India.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're officially on podcast number 6 today. And the last 2 weeks we have been in Calcutta, in Gujarat. Today we're finally back in the studio. So it's really, really good to be back. We have with us somebody who has been also an IF member. That's how I met her. But she especially is doing a lot of work on the technology side of things. So up to this point, we were interviewing maybe people who were running foundries. But she has been probably a pioneer in the 3D printing technology for foundries. So allow me to introduce Ms. Nidhi Shah from Voxeljet India. And Voxeljet, if you don't know, is into 3D printing, a German-based company that she is the director for in India. And you've been working with Voxeljet how long?
10 years now.
10 years now. So that's a long time. So Nidhi, take us back to how this journey with Voxeljet started. How did it begin?
Sure. So Ian, first of all, thank you for having me. It's
Welcome.
been a pleasure
Good to have you on the show.
to be here and to talk to you. So I was already a part of the 3D printing industry in India before I joined Voxeljet, and been a part of the 3D printing industry since 2003, but largely on the plastic side of things and different applications. But I'd already known Voxeljet during those years, and then when an opportunity with Voxeljet came up to probably set up their India offices, I kind of just took it up and embraced the opportunity, and that's how it came about for me.
So opportunity came about as in you knew them from your 3D printing earlier, as you
Yes,
mentioned.
Yes.
So how did this opportunity actually take place? Like, did you reach out to them? How did it establish itself?
So 2012-13, I was running my own consultancy where we were supporting customers who were interested in adopting 3D printing for their businesses and buying into the technology. At that time, one of my customers at the time reached out and said that they were interested in 3D sand printing for the foundry applications. And having known Voxeljet for last so many years, I said, yes, of course, I can help you with this, and connected them with Voxeljet. And the first system sale for Voxeljet in India happened at the time, and that gave me an opportunity to kind of again talk to Voxeljet and work out something with them. I got lucky because that was also the time that Voxeljet was getting very serious about the Indian market.
Okay,
and
and
they really wanted to explore
This
the
is
market.
back 9-10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years
Okay.
ago. And they asked me if I would be interested in working for them as a consultant to begin with. And once they really saw the opportunity in the Indian market, they were keen to start off a wholly owned subsidiary for Voxeljet in India. So
Okay.
that's how this happened.
So 10 years ago, when you talk about 3D printing, we didn't even know that 3D printing was for plastics.
Yeah.
It would have been such a nascent new technology at that time.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that you would be in the foundry industry and talking about 3D printing. Some of us here, I mean, most of us here don't even know about what 3D printing can offer to the foundry industry today in
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
So, how did you get, I mean, this is something that would be a very big step from your current business.
Yeah.
So, how did Voxeljet convince you to actually go with them? Because that would have also been a sales process.
Yeah, so in my earlier work, we were already doing a lot of 3D printing for the foundry industry, for some niche foundries across India,
Okay.
where we were 3D printing patterns in plastic,
Okay.
which could be affixed on a match plate,
So, that is where you got your foundry experience. sort
only
of.
for proto castings,
Got
right?
it, got it.
And during my many visits to Europe, visiting a lot of trade shows around 3D printing, I had already met the team from Voxeljet.
Okay, so you used to already travel for your 3D printing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
And I believed in the technology from
Right.
there on. And I knew that there's a lot of potential, because I also knew that India is one of the largest foundry markets in the world.
Correct.
So it was only a matter of time that 3D printing would hit the Indian foundry industry as well.
Correct.
So I don't think that Voxeljet really had to sell me on the idea. But before both of us, me and Voxeljet, got into this, we knew that we are in for a tough ride. That most of the Indian foundry industry does not know 3D printing, first of all.
Right.
And when we went and talked to them and said, we can actually 3D print something that is 4 meters by 2 meters by 1 meter, a single piece mold, and you can cast all alloys, including stainless steel, people were not ready to believe us initially.
Right.
They're like, no, come on, that's not possible. Because they've never seen something like it. So that was the real challenge, but also the real excitement. Because we had an opportunity to really go to the ground level and talk to these foundries, in a certain sense, educate foundries that there is this technology that is available and this is what the technology can do. So it was a great learning experience also for me.
Right.
Because I don't come from a foundry background. I'm an
Correct.
electronics engineer by
Correct.
education, and I have only worked in the plastic. And in fact, my career was started with the jewelry industry back in
Right.
the day,
Right.
and then I did a lot of other work also around plastic. So it was also a lot of educational for me, and I'm super grateful to the foundry industry, because along the way I met some of the finest people in the industry who were very willing to teach me about
Okay.
what a foundry is
Okay.
and what really happens.
So
on
it
a
was
foundry.
very welcoming, you would say, as in
Yeah.
when you were getting in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And you mentioned about your sales process. So you would not only have to convince them to buy, but also what you're selling.
Yeah.
Right,
To
because
educate them on the product.
Educate them on the product. So
Yeah.
that would have been a very challenging
Yeah.
thing for sales.
Yeah.
So how has that process been? How is what were the initial hiccups, and maybe when did you finally say, okay, this thing is working?
Yeah.
Where we are seeing a little bit of growth, and finally people at least know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I joined Voxeljet as a consultant in July 2014.
Okay. So this is
Yeah.
about 10
Exactly
years ago.
10 years
Right.
now. And at the time, my task was very clear. They said, Nidhi, first you talk to as many foundries as you can.
Okay.
See if the foundries show interest in our technology.
Correct.
And is there a possibility that some foundries will at least invest in the technology?
Right.
And when I started off, I was like, of course, foundries will know about the technology, because sometimes when you know about it, you assume that everybody else knows about
It's
it.
nothing short of oil exploration. I mean, you're literally just going out there and trying to get something back.
Yeah,
Right.
but it was really challenging, but also very exciting and rewarding at the same time.
What were some hiccups you had as a woman? Because that would also be a limitation, right? I mean, you're the third foundry woman on the show.
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, 50% of our audience, our guests has been women.
yeah,
That's a good sign.
which is a very good sign.
It's a very
so
good
thank
sign.
you for having us around.
So, I mean, y'all are dominating the industry even here. So that is putting us out of business.
Very, very kind of you.
But how would this play out like 10 years ago? Because today it's a normal cultural thing, but 10 years ago it would have been challenging, especially in a hardcore industrial organization. Industry.
It was difficult. Yes, I did have a lot of pushback. I also had my own share of patronizing.
Okay.
Yeah, that did happen. I'm not saying no, but that was a very small part of it.
Right.
Eventually, the more I talked to these foundry men, and mostly senior foundry men, it was after a point, it was very easy, because when you're out there to learn and you very openly tell them, sir, I'm not from the foundry industry,
Correct.
I understand 3D printing and I
Correct.
think this product could have some value for your business or add some
Correct.
value to your business.
Correct.
And you're there to learn but also introduce your technology at the same time, then a lot of barriers automatically
Correct.
break down and people
Right.
kind of warm up.
Right.
And that really helped me, because unless I understand what a foundry does and what are their challenges, I'll not be able to introduce my product or even position my product.
Correct.
So a lot of my learning also happened at the time. It still continues. There are still a lot of things that I don't understand about the industry. But yes, there were initial challenges with regards to me being a young girl at the time, not from the industry. But the industry only helped me overcome it.
Correct.
So I think in that regard, I'm super grateful.
Correct. So that's also a message for anybody, say a woman, a foundry woman who wants to
Yeah.
get in.
Yeah.
There are no barriers. It's only probably
Not
mental,
anymore. Not
right?
anymore.
Not
Yeah.
anymore. It's only a mental
Yeah.
barrier right now. So it's
And
50%.
yeah, now if you look around, there are so many women in the foundry industry.
Correct. Which I'm hoping that you'll introduce me to a few of them, so at least
Anytime.
we can get
Of course,
like a a two-side debate going.
for sure.
So so when you talk about the technical part,
Yeah.
now let's get into the product.
Yeah.
So Voxyjet as a company was manufacturing 3D printing molds, right? That's what their technology is
3D
about.
printing machines that can
3D
print
printing
molds.
machines that make molds.
Yeah.
So when you look at 3D printed molds, how does it work exactly? What is it made out of?
So we 3D print sand, so sand molds and cores, and we work with 3 different binders: furane, phenolic, and inorganic.
Okay. They all
that's-
have different life cycles.
What do you mean different life
Like how
cycles?
long can a mold last before it's poured?
Good question. So a furane or a phenolic mold, if stored correctly, not out in the street under rain or something, but in a normal foundry environment, and if you've already coated it, given it 1 layer of coat,
Okay.
then it would last for months
Okay.
before you cast.
Okay.
And inorganic, probably not that much, but still
So
substantially.
you have these
long
options when
shelf
you are
life.
also talking about 3D printing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll get into about which one is better and which one is suitable
Yeah.
for what environments.
Yeah.
But is the sand reusable? Because that is a question that everyone would want to know also.
Yes, after
Okay.
thermal or mechanical reclamation, you can reuse, and that's how you would also do for your normal foundry.
Correct, because these are very
process,
large molds.
right? Yeah, you can't just break up the mold and put it back on the machine.
Correct.
That will not happen.
So you need to reintroduce
you
your
will have
binder.
to burn out the activator binder in the process and
Okay.
then get pure silica sand back into the system.
Okay.
This is possible. At the moment, not a lot of our customers are using that because for you to reclaim
It doesn't
that
make
much
sense
sand,
at this point. Right, I understand what you mean. It
Reclamation
doesn't-
is also an expensive process, and you
correct.
need to have huge volumes
Correct,
to be able
correct.
to do it. But if you were doing it,
It's just
then
good to
yes,
know that if
doable.
this is a possibility
Yeah.
or not. Right.
So
right.
just one other thing I wanted to add. So apart from sand molds and cores, we also have another material which is PMMA.
Okay.
This is polymethyl methacrylate.
Okay.
It is the same material that or it's plexiglass,
Okay.
layman's terms. And it's the same material that you would add to wax in your investment casting foundries to give strength to your wax, right?
Okay.
So we also 3D print with that, and we then infiltrate it with wax to make patterns for investment casting. So that
Okay.
is another application from our machines
Okay.
for
okay.
the foundry
So you've
industry.
developed like sort of a secondary and uses for your product.
It's not as, it would be still a primary
Okay.
use, yeah.
Okay.
So that is also one of our mainstream
Okay.
offerings.
Oh, okay. Investment casting. So investment
Investment
foundries don't
casting
have
and
molds
sand
anyway.
casting,
So
yeah.
okay, fine.
So we
Got it.
work on both sides
Got
of
it.
the
Got
eye.
it.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about a machine,
Yeah.
what is the ideal life cycle? Like how long is the machine serviceable?
That's so interesting. Officially, we would say 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
But we have customers who've been operating our machines for over 15 years, 17 years.
Okay.
Of course, with proper maintenance, etc.
Right.
But yes, it is possible. It's these are state-of-the-art German-made machines, which are like powerful workhorses.
German made.
Yeah, super proud of it.
That is the USP.
Super proud of it. Super proud of it.
Right.
But yes, we've like
Right.
for example, one of our first customers is Kirloskar Brothers Limited in
Okay.
India.
Right.
That was our first deal,
So okay.
and that system was installed in September 2014.
Okay.
We are almost 10 years now.
So KBL has been an early investor into 3D technology.
Early adopter, yes.
Right. 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
How are
and
they doing though? I mean,
Very well. And
Okay.
the machine is still running at 80-90% capacity
and what are they using the machine for?
for making sand molds and cores for their pump and valve
Okay.
products.
So
yeah.
they're actively using it for production.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Can you give us a few names of adopters, early adopters?
So apart from the fact that we sell machines, we also provide services. So 3D printing service on demand.
Okay.
So we have a lot of customers who only order printed molds and cores from us to do their
Okay.
casting later on.
Right.
Customers who don't want to invest in a machine but still want to use the technology.
Okay.
So this is also something we support with. Until recently, we were supplying all these printed molds and cores from Germany.
Okay.
And in spite of the high shipping costs and
that answers our
customs
question
duty,
about how long they last, because
Yeah.
pretty much they have to last a month at least.
at least.
Right.
So in that case, we had a lot of early adopters, and a lot of these were around prototyping and low volume production.
Correct.
A lot of the foundries used this service when they wanted to just take a sample trial before they do their final
Actual
tooling,
development. Correct.
right? So at that time, we were working with a lot of companies like Brakes India, Turbo Energy. We did a lot of work with Acme Tools, Schneider Prototyping, Kirloskar Ferris, Kirloskar Oil Engines, Ashok Iron Works.
Welcome.
Some of our
Okay.
customers from the time.
Okay.
CRI, Aquasub.
CRA pumps.
CRI pumps.
Oh, Aquasub has a machine?
No, but they
Coimbatore.
have been taking services.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm asking her questions that weren't in the script. I sheepishly sent her the script earlier, and then I added more questions to it.
Yeah. Pleasant surprise.
Anyway, since we are on to surprises, this is also not in the script. Are you allowed to say how much it costs?
The machines?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a few models.
Okay.
Our smallest model is the VX200, which
Okay.
is mainly for universities and labs, research labs. This has a job box size of 300 by 200 by 150 millimeters.
Okay.
It can only print sand at
Okay.
the moment.
Okay.
A
You don't
bit
have to
of-
answer if you don't want to.
Bit of ceramic, and
This is just something.
yeah, I would say in the range of euros for that.
€50 for the small machine.
Yeah, and
Right.
our largest is the VX4000,
Okay.
which has a job box size of 4 meters by 2 meters by 1 meter.
4 meters by 2 meters by
So
1
it
meter.
can print
Very
12
big.
tons of sand in a
Size of
single
this room,
cycle.
roughly.
Yeah,
Okay.
little bigger actually. And about euros.
Okay. So you said
But that's
KBL.
used for production.
KBL has bought one.
KBL, Gadge Patil Industries, in
Karge Patil, Kolhapur.
and PK Steel Castings.
PK Steel
Calicut.
Casting. So now we know 3 really big foundries who have the
Yeah.
capacity to invest. That's amazing.
I
So-
think there are a lot of foundries in India who have the capacity to invest in a
Right.
machine like this. Having talked to so many foundries, I believe that a lot of foundries also have projects that would run
Okay.
this machine.
Right.
Uh,
So what's keeping them on the fence? Why are they not going ahead with it? Like
because even without the machine, their business is running as
Okay.
status quo.
So let me just stop you. If they were to buy a machine, what problem would they be solving? Would they be solving cost? Would they be solving time? Would they be solving maybe I don't know, the ability to customize things?
Yeah. The first and foremost thing is they would save on time, because imagine when you don't have a machine, you are first making your pattern, your core box, then you're doing your mold, and then
Okay.
you're casting.
So the time for development is very, very long.
Is much
Couple of
larger.
months in some cases.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the first clear
Okay.
advantage.
So clearly time is a factor that
Yeah.
these 3 foundries
Yeah.
are going for.
Second is, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, you also save cost.
Okay.
When you're comparing only per kg cost of core, probably not.
Correct.
But when you see the cost of the total cycle, so because you will have to make the pattern, then you'll make the mold, then you'll do your casting, you'll have your draft angles, which in this case you don't need draft angles.
Correct.
You're adding draft angles here only because you're making the mold or the core from a pattern.
Right.
You will have much less parting line flashes, so your fettling goes down, your machining goes down because you have a near net shape casting. We have a lot of foundries who are also 3D printing their entire gating design, right? So you can do better gating, better methoding, and you have a better quality casting.
Okay.
Your yield is improved. So all in all, when you see, your rejections are reduced.
Right.
Your time to assemble and your core rejections are reduced.
Correct.
So all in all, when you see across the life cycle of that product, you have saved money. But when you only compare, my per kg core cost with the conventional process is X, but with 3D printing per kg cost is Y, and this Y is much higher than X in almost all cases, then you will not see the benefit. But when you see across the cycle or across that entire process, then of course you will see that 3D printing turns out to be cheaper.
Okay.
So this is time, cost. The third thing is, it gives foundries an opportunity to make or take up really complex projects, which otherwise they cannot.
Right.
In a lot of cases, we've seen that where making the core box or something by that process is not possible at all. Instead of regretting it, you can still take it up and do it via 3D printing.
So capability.
Capability is increased.
Right.
And what is interesting for us is we are seeing foundries diversify their business using this.
Okay.
It's easier to diversify.
Correct. So it's like an R&D sort of expense.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can also take up a lot of one-off, low-volume batch production,
Correct.
which otherwise, for a fully functional, fully production-focused foundry would
I
not
get
have
what you
been
mean.
possible.
I get what you mean. Like
But you generate additional revenue from
correct,
that.
correct. And also new lines of business.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe
Yeah.
you have your strict like production line.
Yeah.
And you can't really slow that down. You can't have development projects within your production line. So you
Yeah.
have something at the side that
Yeah.
allows you to experiment. That could maybe mean like expanding into a whole new plant altogether.
Precisely.
So right. So it makes
Precisely.
sense why big foundries are investing into this technology.
Yeah.
Really good. Really great stuff. So your ideal customer we have pretty much covered, right? Who's not your customer? Like who do you look at a foundry and say, okay, I mean, I don't think it would work out for these guys.
From a 3D printing perspective, there are some castings which are very simple geometries
Yeah.
and only
So
mass
simple
production, large
geometries.
volumes,
Right.
super large volumes, then probably it will not work. Because then the process that you're already following works.
Correct.
So,
Something that's easy to develop. Let's
easy
just-
to develop.
let's just
So
term it
then,
that. Right.
not 3D printing.
Right.
So 3D printing doesn't work for everything. But also we've seen that there are foundries that have the right product, but you also need to have the right mindset to be able to adopt this technology.
Okay.
That you want to position yourself as a trailblazer in the industry.
Right.
You want to diversify your business. You want to think about your business very differently than how you have in the last so many years, and recalibrate your business. Then this is the right product.
I mean, that's why we're seeing some of the best foundries adopting
Yeah.
this early on.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that answers that.
Yeah.
So, Voxeljet has been here for 10 years now, as you
Yeah.
mentioned. When we look at Germany and India,
Mm.
what do you see that the differences are? Because you mentioned that Germany, I mean, this technology is from there. That means they must have sold a lot in the
Yeah.
German market before they came here.
Yeah.
So, what are some differences between German foundries and Indian foundries as to why this technology is doing better there?
I think the first and foremost is the labor cost.
Okay, so labor cost being high would mean that they
It would mean that this technology becomes
right,
more affordable
right.
in India because we have such low labor cost.
Or the incentives are better to adopt. I mean,
Yeah.
to change into this. Right?
Yeah. Second, I could be wrong, but from whatever little I have seen, foundries in Germany are manufacturing. Some foundries in Germany are manufacturing really complex
Okay.
castings, and that's where again 3D printing is a very natural fit.
Correct.
In India, from my limited understanding, most of the foundries are jobbing foundries, where they are not a part of the development process, etc., with their customers. The development has already happened in Europe or US or at their customer site at their OEM level. And once everything is fixed and finalized, then it's given to the foundry that, okay, now just, mass produce. So in those cases also, I think that's why more adoption in the
So
Western
ideally, you
market.
would say your customer base is largely centered around where the R&D is going on, not where the production is going on, right?
Yeah,
Like-
now also production, but not for real simple products.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we look at 3D printing as a technology now, you've been doing this for 10 years. Where is the industry going? How far are we from pressing a machine, a button on a machine and getting a casting come out? Not just sand, but actual casting come out.
Metal come out.
Metal come
Metal
out.
part. That is already happening, which is a different technology,
So
which is
is-
direct metal printing.
Is that something that Voxeljet is getting into?
No.
Will are sticking to sand?
Yes. Sticking to sand and investment castings, sticking to casting side of things, and I'll tell you why. Direct metal printing, great technology, lot of great applications. But there are also limitations to that.
Okay. Some would be?
You cannot 3D print all alloys. You can only
Okay.
3D print some alloys. There's also a constraint on the
Size.
largest size that
Correct.
you can 3D print in
Correct.
metal.
Correct.
Also, it requires a lot of certifications and approvals because
Okay.
you are heating the powder and then depositing it, using a laser, etc.
So you're saying the
So
mechanical
you're
properties
creating a lot
might
of
not...
stresses, yeah.
Correct.
So there's a lot of post process in that.
Like heat treatment and
Yeah.
healing.
And when you're using it, especially for medical or aerospace applications, then you need a lot of certifications and approvals. which have not been easy.
Right.
Whereas casting as a process is already certified and approved, and it has been being used for so many years now.
Correct. Established.
Established process. So I think that makes it easier. And we think that while there is a lot of demand and a lot of applications for direct metal printing, the casting industry is still here to stay.
Right.
So it's not like direct metal printing is going to take over the casting industry,
So, I mean,
or
this is-
replace the casting
So
industry.
what you're saying is this is a technology that's so much into the future right now that you have
Yeah.
not found the need to diversify just yet.
It's not because it's so much into the future, but because it's already been
Okay.
around for
you're
so many
saying-
years.
So what you're
or
saying sand
centuries.
casting always has its place.
It will always have its place.
Right.
Sand casting or investment casting or casting in general
Correct.
will always have its place, in
Because-
spite of the fact that metal printing is growing,
Okay.
but it's not growing to take over the casting industry.
Correct.
Yeah.
Maybe a few months or years down the line, we'll re-invite you back on, and maybe hopefully things will have changed. So, or you'll maintain your position and say that things have not changed.
I don't think it would have changed, but yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I think we pretty much done with 3D printing,
Yeah.
and we pretty much covered where the industry is going, where the industry is not going.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you'd like to add on?
Yeah, I think having worked in the foundry industry for Voxeljet for 10 years now, slowly we are seeing a change in how customers are approaching us and the kind of inquiries that are coming up.
Right.
In India as well, while labor is very cheap, there's also a lot of uncertainty of labor. This is the first reality since COVID. The second thing that's happening is a lot of European and American OEMs are pushing for a China plus one policy. So a lot of these companies, while they were manufacturing a lot of the critical parts from China and the easier castings from India, are now pushing Indian foundries to also manufacture critical castings for mass production, not just for low volume or batch or something like that. Which means that these foundries are having to very seriously look at 3D printing
Okay.
to really keep up with that demand. And the third thing that is also exciting for us is foundries are now taking up a lot of complex work, not just for export but also for the domestic market.
Okay.
So we see that the market is growing, and a lot of foundries are now realizing that they don't have an option but to adopt this technology. Probably, if not right away, 3 to 5 years from now, we will see a larger adoption, not just for prototyping but also for mass production. This is something we've already seen in Europe and US,
That's
and
very-
we are going to see this trend also come to India
Very,
very
very
soon.
exciting what you said, because you mentioned that foundries are seeing this trend, but they are having to adopt. Why? Because if they had this machine, they could maybe offer this capability, and then that would lead to the business
Bigger
later on,
business.
which comes into sand casting, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a way of prototyping
Yeah.
to grab the customer in,
Yeah.
to develop it at speed,
Yeah.
and then later on challenge them into their sand casting foundry.
Yeah.
Okay, so it becomes like a USP.
Yeah, to
Like-
reposition themselves in the market.
Correct. This is something I don't think people actually think about consciously.
Yeah.
So if you're a foundry in the market today and you are doing just sand castings, it's all right. Sand castings are here to stay, as you mentioned. But if you have the capability of 3D printing, you can work with the customer. You can develop, prototype their components at speed,
Yeah.
and then as quickly as possible channel them into production.
Precisely.
So that is what a customer wants. I mean,
Yeah.
time is everything today.
Yeah.
So I think we pretty much understood what 3D printing can do, and especially what Voxeljet can do for you.
Yeah.
So that's been great. It's been great having you.
Thank you for having me.
Nidhi
Thank you.
has, we've been trying to get Nidhi on the show for a month, by the way. I just, she has been to Germany and the UK recently, right?
Yeah.
Last week.
The UK. Yeah. Yeah.
What is their global strategy like? I'm just curious.
I think it's very clear. Voxeljet has planned, if you see all our products in the last few years and how we are positioning ourselves, we believe, and we are already seeing now, that 3D printing will be used for mass production in foundries.
Okay.
We are already seeing that.
Okay.
I mean, if you see the case with BMW, for example, BMW is mass producing their water jacket cores, etc.
How long
the
does it take to
foundries.
print your, say, 4 meter by 2 meter by 1 meter, right? Your largest
At the moment,
size.
54 hours.
54 hours.
But I think by the end of the year or early next year, it's gonna come down.
And what is the idea? I mean, give us an idea of the amount of volume of metal that would go into a mold of that size.
It depends how you design your mold.
Okay.
So usually you will see that in foundries, in sand casting foundries, the ratio is 1:5.
Okay.
So if you have 1 kg of metal, then it's 5 kg of sand.
Right.
But when you're 3D printing, you can go leaner. So that ratio can actually come down to 1:2, 1:3.
So better yield for the sand as
So
well.
better yield. Yeah.
Right. Where can people find you?
I'm always available. The easiest way to reach me is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
But
LinkedIn's everyone's favorite.
everyone's favorite. But otherwise, I think my contact details are readily available on the website. So
Got it. So
Yeah.
we'll put Nidhi's contact details below, and LinkedIn is the place that you can reach out to her.
Yeah.
And your office is in Mumbai,
I'm in Mumbai. Yeah.
right? So Mumbai. So anyway, thank you so much, Nidhi, for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you so
been a
much.
pleasure.
Thank you so
And
much.
I wish you all the very best.
Thank you. So she's officially guest number 6 on the show. If you like what we're doing, guys, like, subscribe, support our channel,
Yeah.
and we're going to see a lot more adoption of a lot more guests who have adopted new technologies,
Yeah.
new innovations, especially people who are doing it right, doing it differently. So that is what this show is all about: showcasing new, growing the overall foundry industry. And especially, we are the best place to be right now. The
Yeah.
foundry industry is booming.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode, and cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.